mindfulness is something that is a practice, right? So how do you begin training the mind? What are the practices or habits that you recommend people begin with, whether they're beginners or intermediate?
Yeah, and again, I'd love to ask you this question, Eileen, or what your own journey has been. But just before I do that, I would say that there are many blocks for people new to mindfulness where they go, oh no, this all looks a bit kind of like too much. I have to get down on a yoga mat, or I have to go on these long retreats. I think the first thing I would say is actually our life is our practice. So I'll come on to the point about mindfulness practice in a moment, but there was a young woman I was talking to the other day, and she had a mindfulness practice, and she was the mother of a young child. And she was trying to fit her mindfulness practice in with being the mother of a young child and getting to resent her practice, and also irritable with her child because every time she tried to practice, the child would wake and need her attention. And she did this extraordinary thing, which is she made this shift and she said, I am going to make my breastfeeding my practice. And from that moment on, it was something that enabled her to connect more with her infant, with her child, and actually build this sense of presence and awareness into the moments she was really connecting with her child. And it's a very bodily based practice, isn't it? Some of the practices are about body scan or mindful movement. So breastfeeding is it's a very bodily experience. So that is an example of life can be practice. Mm-hmm. That being said, there are many practices and a bit like medicine and drugs, every practice has got a slightly different purpose. So some are about developing focus and attention, and some are about developing qualities of mind like kindness or compassion or balance and equanimity. And other practices are about developing insight. So, I think of it as being a sort of big kind of, if you like, toolkit of practices that when we become more practiced, we go, at this point in my life, what I need is this practice. Or even for this day and in this moment, what I need is this practice. And that is the kind of journey, right? And it's a bit like if you think about our body and our mind being something that we're befriending through a lifetime, what we need at 20 is different to what we need at 40, which is different to what we need when we're a bit older. So I think there's this idea of practice unfolding over time and being bespoke to different situations. But I'd love to hear your journey. What's been your journey of practice and how you've worked with practice?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your tools as well, some examples. But I guess mine has also been a journey that I would say began with yoga, because yoga was just an exercise, which became an awareness practice. And then it became, I got into meditating. Journaling actually has been a practice I've done almost all my life. So that's a great way for me to communicate with my mind, because I'm a very overthinking kind of person.
Yeah.
And also music, like playing piano, things like that bring me into that feeling of flow and feeling of joy in my body.
Yeah.
I think are big. Those are probably the big ones. And then, as you said, there's a lot of things that I've tried, and it's the practices unfold, but I would say those are the big ones for me.
So, I try to start every day with a sense of intentionality. So a sense of just connecting with my mind and body as the day starts and thinking, what's coming up today and how do I want to lean into that? How do I want to meet that day? So starting the day with a sense of intentionality. And then sometimes I'll have a practice in the morning, and that practice will just depend on where I'm at. Sometimes it's a body scan practice, sometimes it's Qigong, sometimes it's some yoga. And throughout the day, I will try to pause and connect. Just what's happening in the mind and the body as I go through the day, and just ask myself a really simple question. What do I need in this moment? Or actually, if I'm with somebody else, what does this person need? Or if I'm working on something or I'm out in the world, what does this person need, or what's needed in this moment? And then I'll try at the end of the day to have a little bit of a review, a little bit of a scan back, and just have a sense of appreciation of what's gone well through the day. Really kind of dropping into and savoring gosh, that, meeting with my daughter for brunch, I really, really had a lovely sense of connection, and the food was delicious. And that was a really lovely moment. Or if something difficult happened, I'll go, oh, maybe if I just lent into that with a bit more kindness or a bit more letting go, that might have gone better. So that's what I mean by mindfulness for life. It's about really integrating it into life and actually learning from all of that. So life itself becomes practice. I do go
Yeah.
on retreats. I try and go on a retreat a year. And it's just a chance to go a bit deeper, right? And a chance to really sort of spend a bit more time in a sort of deeper contemplation and kind of recharging the batteries at a kind of deeper level.
Yeah, yeah. I also another reason why I like this concept of mindfulness for life is the fact that you brought up you don't have to create new habits or practices. It's whatever you're already doing. Then you just drop in and try to become more aware. Ask yourself these little prompts throughout the day and or even at just the end of the day. I think that's really, really actionable and helpful for people listening.
Yeah. I wanted to just pick up on something you said, Eileen, which is about music, because the music's really important for a lot of people, right?
Yes.
I think music, like anything, like art, like running, like exercise, can easily, you talked about it being a flow state. And I think in mindfulness, the way I teach it and I've learned it is we talk a little bit about these two different ways of kind of knowing the world and being the world. Is one is to experience it, and the other is to reflect on it and think about it. When we listen to music really in an experiential mode, you just have this sense of the music moving through us, and you feel a sense of joy or
Yes.
vitality or
Mhm.
energy or sadness, whatever the music is, or nostalgic. You just really enjoy that, right? But you can also
Yes.
think about the music and you go, oh, that's interesting. Is some musician friends of mine say, like, oh, there's a change from a major to a minor kind of
Yeah.
there, and that's the change in mood, and that's kind of clever, and you can shift between the two, and that
Mhm.
kind of awareness and moving between thinking and experiencing can be so powerful with sport,
Mm.
with music, with art. But I would go further, and there's something in mindfulness for life which we call the 50-50 practice, where we can bring this to any part of our life. Even right now, speaking to you, I can hold 50% of my awareness in my own mind and body. And when I do that, I've got a sense of, I feel really energized, and I feel a real sense of kind of liking and appreciation. And then the other 50% is you and what you're asking and what you're saying. And if we can go through our day with a bit more of shifting between experiencing and thinking in this 50-50 practice, our life just becomes enriched, and it becomes a bit more intentional, and it becomes a bit more informed by what's happening for us in any given moment.
That's so interesting because I've never heard that exact concept before. The fact that it's good for us to be able to step into both the feeling and the thinking, the
Yep.
experiencing and the thought. Why is that? Why is it not versus like, oh, being completely in that experience, right? Because I love music for many reasons, but one of the reasons is it helps you can create your energy with the kind of music you choose to
Yep.
hear, right? You
Yep.
play an exciting playlist or you play a calm playlist. I use music to kind of design my energy throughout the day.
Yep.
But I mean, that's just one angle. But yeah, why is it the 50-50 that makes us better and more enriched?
I think just the way we've evolved and the way we are means that that kind of experiential mode is incredibly suited to certain things. It's incredibly suited to just enjoying music and being in the flow and whatever it might be. And of course, the thinking mode is what got us to the moon, and it's what got us our education, and it's what enables us to solve problems. But because we're so good at thinking and we're so good at turning things into words and talking, that can be like our default mode. That's where we go. And then you forget to go, my goodness, this is such a warm and lovely feeling. Or even this meal. I'm thinking about this meal, and this is a Michelin restaurant, or this is just, everybody's talking about this restaurant. And then you forget to actually really taste the food and really
Yeah.
enjoy the richness of the food. So I think we have this experiencing mode and thinking mode, they have different purposes. And once we start to play with them intentionally, we can know when it's useful to deploy one and when the other. So we talk about music and experiencing being such a helpful mode. But you think about something like, I don't know, making love. That's a place for the experiential mode, right? It's not a place to be overly thinking about things. And then there are other places where if you get into experiential mode, it's not going to help you. If you're sitting having to do an exam, a SAT, or whatever it is, that's not a time to that's a time to get your thinking mode in mind. And where that goes wrong is, I think, for example, with relationships, when things go wrong in relationships, overthinking things can create more problems. Sometimes just dropping into the body and going, what's needed in this moment? Oh, I see. Empathy, an apology, just a touch, not thinking, okay, I've got to justify my position. I've got to get into an argument. I've got to, I feel really bad. So sometimes that kind of, we get into thinking in places that causes problems for us, like, problems in relationships. So they both have value. And I think what I'm saying is that mindfulness practice, particularly when we really bring it into our lives, we start to know when they serve us and when they don't, these two different modes of mind.
Yeah.